Some statistics that are making me shake my head just a little bit. South Africans spend more time on screens than almost any other nation, and the obsession is fueling a growing mental health crisis among children and adolescents. It says here, if we as adults are addicted, how can our children not be? I'm joined this morning by Dr. Melanie van Zyl, member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists. Good morning, Dr. van Zyl. Good having you along.
Good morning. Thanks a lot.
It's my pleasure. When I'm looking at these statistics and reading what I've got here in front of me, I can see that we've got a massive crisis on our hands, and the idea that adolescents are spending so much time on their devices, and this statistic says 70% more likely to have suicidal thoughts or actions. Those are pretty scary.
Yes, and since we've written this statement, or we are actually now, South Africans, we are actually the winners now in the world. So we spend the most time on screens of any country in the world. And it is concerning because our adults spend almost 10 hours a day on average on devices, and children and adolescents obviously look what we do and not what we say.
Yeah.
So they copy this. And it's the data is quite clear that the longer you spend on what we call mindless type of, using your screens, the higher your chances of getting depression. So up to 70% higher chance for people and adolescents, children that spend more than 5 hours than for 1 hour or less. So this is very concerning to us.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. van Zyl, you're a member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists. So what are you sharing amongst yourselves as professionals and people that you're seeing coming into your rooms for conversation? I mean, surely you're all just getting busier and busier. I mean, if we're spending more and more time on smartphones, the problems are rising. Are you seeing it in the conversations you're having behind closed doors with patients?
Yes, we see that adolescents and children's lives are very stressful in these times and in South Africa, and they copy adults' behavior, and they also do what is available to them to what they think are going to make them feel better. So we also, as SASOP, talk about vaping in the media these days.
Yes.
It's a similar type of, form of escape, or self-medication. So it's things that are promoted, and adolescents are targeted specifically by, via the internet.
Yeah.
And they develop all these bad habits. The more they use the screen time, the more they vape
Yeah.
and do things like that, the less they uh, do healthy things, the less time they spend outside exercising, normal face-to-face social interaction, healthy eating habits, all those things then take second place, because it's just so rewarding, and you think you feel better if you're on a screen, or a vape, or both
Yeah.
together, I assume. Often, so we, but we the data is quite clear, and we do see it clinically that these adolescents actually become worse and worse and worse. So the more they do these things, and the more they are on their screens, the more harmful content they consume, and the less they sleep. That's very important. So they all have they often have very bad sleeping habits. They are actually chronically tired.
Wow.
They can't achieve at school anymore, and they just do worse and worse.
What is the thing that's driving the depression or the suicidal thoughts, as we read here early on, with 70% more likely to have suicidal thoughts? What's driving that in terms of what they're consuming?
The content they consume is low quality. So it is social media type of stuff, where it how can I say, the emphasis are all on the wrong things,
Yeah.
to be cool on social media or online is a very different thing than, having a real relationship. So
Yes.
they, they can even be exposed to harmful things, this sort of cyberbullying
Mm,
and pornography and all sorts of um, uh, criticism and just sort of the data shows that they just get a lower self-esteem
mm.
in general the longer they are on social media every day.
How do we change things? Because we, as adults and parents, we are not setting a very good example. It's not as if we can say, you said they're doing what they're seeing us do, and the average South African adult spends over 9 hours and 37 minutes a day on their smartphone. I mean, if you think about how many hours I'm awake every day, and if I'm falling into that category, I am not setting a very good example. So how do we turn this around?
Yes, exactly. So unfortunately, it doesn't help to say something and do something else.
Yeah.
And I think, I think everybody knows it if you're a parent, but the adolescents are so clever, with technology. So, you must really outsmart them and
Yes.
put very strict boundaries, because they will find a way
Mm.
to get data behind your back. They
Wow.
will find a way to be on the internet if you don't, number one, set the example, like very clear boundaries, such as when we eat dinner together around the table, ideally, we don't
Yes.
have our phones with us. I think that's such a basic thing, and it's often difficult because everybody has very difficult and busy lives.
Mm.
But if it is possible, then have those times when you're just not on a screen.
Yes.
You are actually busy interacting with each other, or you're busy doing something else. Um, and then parents must, it's effort and it's met with resistance, but parents must set very strict boundaries. They must take their children's devices,
Yeah.
uh, at in the evening. It's not good enough to just, put the internet off. I think most adolescents get away around that quite quickly. So it's much easier to just give your child, and that so you can also go on with your things, if they're
Mm.
busy on their devices. But we have to, yeah, learn the self-discipline to
Yeah.
do it ourselves and
Mm.
to then constantly, unfortunately, monitor them and their behavior.
Yeah, if we set good boundaries for our kids, I think as adults and parents, we will be benefiting as well. Let's eat together, let's watch a movie together, let's put our screens down, let's go for a hike, let's go for a walk. Maybe it's time for us to be changing our behavior and taking our kids along for the ride. What do you say?
Yes, because if they only like live online, then that becomes their world.
Mm.
And that is not, I mean, it's not a real world. They live in this like international community where they have access to everything across the world. So that is not, I mean, if they never, uh, if they don't do like normal, real life, face-to-face activities,
Mm.
um, then that weird online life becomes their normal. And that is a very dangerous place.
Is there a point at which we come and see somebody like you, Dr. Van Sale, where we say, can our kids just come and spend time with a counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist? I mean, is there a need for that in this kind of a situation?
Uh, for a psychiatrist, you would, sort of reserve for the, when there is like suicidal ideation or severe depression.
Mm.
So psychiatrists prescribe medications that we will tend to see the more serious cases. And psychologists, also then children with other types of mental health problems. Yeah, but if there's no other mental problems, sort of anxiety, depression, um, ADHD, those types of things, then yeah, counselor will be fine.
Mm.
It should also be, teachers and people who work with children and adolescents should also be educated. So they, something like a teacher,
Yeah.
or those people that have contact with children should also teach them.
So there you've heard it. We need to be doing something. And it starts with us as parents because our kids are following our example and they're doing what we do. And if it's normal to continuously be looking and swiping through your phone, they're going to say, well, my parents do it. They condone it. Therefore, I must do it as well. So I think from what I'm feeling here, Dr. Van Sale, we need like an overhaul of the way we do our lives. And we're starting to see the negative effects of things that have become completely normal. And we're going to suffer with this brain rot that I read about recently. And if we want to avoid this brain rot, we better act now before. Is it too dramatic to say it's only going to get worse?
No, I'm afraid you're right, So, I mean, there are theories why we as South Africans are in this position, as the winners of
Mm,
being on the screens the most. Um, but yeah, I do agree that it can probably only get worse if we don't really intervene here, because it is where we are now, and this is what the children are used to now to do, and they adults as well. So it's always difficult to learn a new behavior and unlearn
mm,
a habit. So the sooner we can turn around, or sort of make that attempt at least,
yes.
I mean, everybody knows for example, it's not good to smoke, So, but we're not so concerned about being on a tablet
Yes, correct.
and on a screen. So we should start with changing our mindset that this is indeed a problem.
Mm.
And only from there we can try to change behavior, because that in itself is difficult.
Just one more thing before I greet you. We're talking here about adolescence particularly, but it obviously has to start somewhere. And thrusting a tablet or a smartphone into a 2-year-old's hands or younger is possibly not the way to start the journey with digital devices and try to beat this issue. So we need to probably start right there.
Yeah, so if you're sort of, my age, it's for many parents, it's like cute, to have a
Mm,
baby that can do things on a tablet. But it's actually not cute, So
yes,
the World Health Organization recommends no screen time for under 2-year-olds, unless it is sort of a FaceTime or a conversation,
yes.
with somebody that is far away. So that is the only reason why a child of 2 years and younger should be on a tablet, is to talk to a family member who is overseas, or
Mm.
somebody, yeah, like their parents who's working away or something like that. That's the only reason.
Is there a minimum time that, because we all have to function and smartphones are all part of our everyday lives, and of course then it sometimes becomes an issue when we end up on social media doing something completely pointless like you said, but is there a point where it's actually okay, where you have to interact using your phone anyway, but if you do it for just so long, you should be okay?
Yes, I say about an hour.
Mm,
So yeah, work around an hour. So we're talking about what they say, like mindless type of scrolling. So this is
yeah.
social media and YouTube and games and things like that. To keep that to about an hour
So there you have
is
it.
the recommendation. Mm,
Currently, as South Africans, we're sitting at over 9 hours a day. That's the average. So somebody is pushing that average up because other people are pulling that average down. These numbers, there's no laughing matter, but
exactly.
I think I'm more shocked than anything else here when I read these things. And I'm asking myself, how much am I part of the problem? Am I pushing that average up, or am I doing my best to bring that average down? But that is scary. Think about how many hours we're awake, everyone. And this is 9 hours and 37 minutes is the average. So something needs to change. Thank you for this conversation, Dr. Malani van Zyl, member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists. I'm feeling like I have to do something, and I hope people listening are feeling exactly the same way. Thank you for your time and your expertise.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it so much.
Big pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Malani.